This episode is sponsored by ODP Business Solutions, built to address all your facility needs. Visit odpbusiness.com today. Today, we will take a deep dive into several tactics that you, as a busy business owner or entrepreneur, will find refreshing because often many think in order to scale our business, we have to have more personal effort. We have to do more ourselves. The conversation will focus on systems, structure, and smarter strategies that allow a company to scale efficiently. And to do this, I'm pleased to welcome back Dean Mercado, a regular guest. Dean, it's good to see you.
Jeff, as always, man, I'm happy to be with you.
You know, you look relaxed, like you just had a vacation.
Yes,
No?
if you want to call it that, I try to buffer every single business trip with at least something that rejuvenates a little bit. You know what I mean? So that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. So you had a business trip and you got to sit in the sun a bit as well.
Yeah,
All
yeah. I
right.
had the fun pleasure of hanging out with probably about 30 seven-figure residential cleaning companies and mentor them a little bit and play with them a little bit, hang out for a while and just shoot the you know what. And it was fun. And it happened to
I
be
do.
right on a beach. So that's even better. Right.
If only every workshop you did was on a beach, life would be
I
good.
know. I
Yeah.
know. It would be lovely. It
Yeah.
definitely would be.
Well, let's get into this because we're talking today to busy business owners and entrepreneurs. So the topic today includes 5 points you'd like to share with us. I'll just turn it over to you, and then I'll follow up with a question at the end.
Absolutely. That sounds good. Right. So, what I have for all of you here today is what I call scale or stall. Right. And what I've seen throughout the in particular the cleaning industry over the years is we grow, and then all of a sudden we hit this plateau and we can't seem to get past that spot. I liken it to what I call a financial thermostat. Everybody has a financial thermostat, and you can only grow to the degree that your thermostat allows, right? Now, what I have for you here today are 5 different levers. I call them levers, Jeff, that you could pull as a business owner to help you go from this kind of incremental growth, which is up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, but maybe 2%, 5% growth. I even look at 10% growth as incremental, right? Versus scaling, which for some of our northern friends, that's that hockey stick effect that happens where it's like we're incremental and then all of a sudden, whoop, things pop, right? That's the kind of stuff I love when we get things to pop like that. So our levers, we understand number one, and I want you to understand business is simple, but it's not easy. And don't let anybody ever sell you on all you have to do is this, or only thing you need is AI in your world or automation or the. No, I do all of those things. And I'm telling you, it's not about the tools or the technology, it's about you. Right? We are typically the bottlenecks of our business. Now, I've been the bottleneck of my business numerous times. And I don't look at that as a bad thing, Jeff. I look at that as a good thing because every time I recognize that I'm the bottleneck, that means there's an opportunity for hockey stick growth or that scaling growth, right? If I could just get out of my own way long enough and give my business the true opportunity and respect it deserves, boom, we'll pop. So, that being said, let's dive into the first particular one of this, and it's the S. So the word scale is an acronym, by the way. It's S.C.A.L.E, right? So the first one, the S, stands for systems. Now, I talk a lot about systems. Systems are one of the most important parts of any business that allows it to not only grow but scale, right? If you truly want to get yourself out of the way, you're going to have to put these systems together. And I'm not talking garbage systems. I'm talking systems that other people can use and run the business without you so that you don't have to be the one involved in everything. Your hands are kind of in every single little thing that goes on in that business. Not a good thing. And trust me, we all do it. I'm guilty, right? We all have those things. We just can't seem to get our hands out of the cookie jar all the time. It's one of those things, right? So are those systems documented? Are they repeatable? And are they automated where they can be, right? So those of you who aren't going to town, so to speak, on automation, you're missing the boat with that stuff. The technology today makes it real darn easy to do a lot of this stuff. So one of the biggest problems I see is when you don't systematize your business, that genius of yours that lies, between your two ears. And I do firmly believe that every one of you, every business owner listening to this, does have their own innate genius. My job as a coach is always to get that genius out of you and get it into something someone else can use to do it on your behalf. Hence our clone the owner methodology, right? It's about cloning your genius, not you biologically in a lab, right? So it's about cloning your genius. So we document those systems. First, we determine what they are, then we document them, right? Then we look to automate everything that we can in those systems. And then, and only then, do we start looking at delegating, right? So if we can't eliminate it all together and we can't automate it next, right? Then we look to delegate it. And the problem is, if we can't delegate it, then who gets stuck doing it? If you remember from past conversations, right? You do, right? So not a good place to be. So things I would share with typically my 7-figure and 8-figure clients are more interested in is the concept of creating assets. A system is an asset. An asset makes your business worth more money, right? As many have said in the past, I'm not the only one screaming this from the rooftops. You build your business as if you're going to sell it. But Dean, I don't want to sell. I'm not asking you to sell your business. Sell it, don't sell it. I don't care one way or the other. You do what's right for you and your family. But the bottom line is you build it as if you were going to. That ensures that if you ever do want to get to that crossroad and you want to make that choice, you're in a good spot and you're going to get multiple times what you think you might get. So not a bad place to be, right? So build the assets, focus on assets, right? Now, also another word to the wise. You don't rise to the level of your goals. Most of us set goals and think, oh, that's the be all end all. You don't rise to the level of your goals, right? You fall to the strength of your systems. If your systems suck, what does that mean for your business? So the whole idea is to create predictable results. That's what systemization of a business does when it's done right. And there is a way to do it and do it right, right? So, but that's a conversation for another day. Now, as we move along and we trudge through, that's our systems component. Then we've got the C of scale, which are clients. Are you attracting? Are you converting? And are you maximizing the right clients, the ideal client, right? Do you have what's called an ICP, an ideal client profile? So you know exactly what your ideal client looks like, smells like, where they hang out, everything about them. You know all the detail, right? But where a lot of people make mistakes here, they're all so wrapped up in getting a new client, right? But meanwhile, the back door is wide open and this little thing we call attrition goes on and we lose clients faster out the back door than we're getting them in the front door. So we spend all this money on marketing, all this money on sales, only to let them slip out the back door because we're either ignoring them or we're not treating them the way they want to believe they should be treated, right? So stop chasing more and start chasing better, right? It's about the lifetime value of a client. How much does that client worth to you over the lifetime of doing business with them? That's what I'm talking about when I say maximizing. I was just in a room with 30 or so 7-figure cleaning businesses the other day, as mentioned earlier. And I can't tell you how many of them I called out on that and how many of them are making that cardinal sin of not maximizing the client value, not clearly understanding how much that client is worth to them. So it's not just marketing, which is the attracting, not just sales, which is the converting, right? But it's maximizing. Get more out of them, right? Now, as we move along, the third element or the third lever you have to pull on is what we call authority. That's the A, authority. Now, branding and authority are not exactly the same thing. And a lot of people get them kind of confused, right? Mixed up. I'm going to clarify that pretty simply right now. Brand is about visibility, right? Where your authority is about influence, right? I want to influence, right? So influence is what creates scale, right? Authority is what breeds scaling. So it's an aspect of branding, but it takes it to a whole nother level, right? Now, in any industry, if you're not seen as the expert, you're seen as a commodity, right? It puts you in a position to compete on price. You don't want to do that, especially in the cleaning industry or the restoration industry. You don't want to be seen as a commodity. Trust me, right? Because there'll always be a Walmart that'll come in and undercut you every time. It is a horrible place to compete and a bad brand positioning to take on, right? Now, you don't need to be everywhere. So when I talk about authority, you don't need to be everywhere. And there's another big mistake a lot of people make. They put themselves on 25 different social channels. They spread themselves thin. I've written lots of articles on this topic, to try and get people to wake up. It's not about doing more and being in more places, right? It's about the fewer better. Go exactly to the right pond where your target market is hanging out and throw your fishing line in there with the correct bait in that pond where your target market hangs out. So bottom line is you don't have to be everywhere. You just have to be unforgettable, right? So you've got to make it so that people see you as that authoritative figure. So when they need what you do, you're the first name that pops into their head. And with coaching clients, I do this all the time. I'll run them through a little exercise where I'll say a word and I'll ask them to tell me who's the expert that comes to your mind when I say that particular word. And it could be any word. It could be baseball. And then all of a sudden, somebody will riff off Aaron Judge or somebody, a big name that, comes to their mind as the best or the expert or the authority, whomever. Same goes with your business, right? Let's take, if you're a restoration company and something goes wrong in someone's house, you kind of want to be somewhat top of mind, or at least have a brand that's recognizable when they start looking for help, right? Oh, I recognize so-and-so company. Oh yeah, let's call them, right? And then they don't mind paying a few dollars more if you're a recognizable, proven brand, right? So another thing that I would suggest when it comes to authority, go after frameworks. Build frameworks. You've got a 9-step system to this, or a five-part process to that, and that process is called this, whatever that is. Like my process here is called the S.C.A.L.E framework, right? That's a 5-lever framework. I nailed it, right? And then I named it, and then that's how we communicate it out there. Makes it more memorable. You become and you come across as more of an authority when you have frameworks and they're named, especially if you have those frameworks trademarked and protected as intellectual property. So I'm giving you some high level stuff here, stuff that, for some of our more advanced companies out there as well. But authority is huge, right? It also shortens the sales cycle for many of our cleaning friends, especially our commercial cleaning friends out there. We want to shorten that sales cycle as much as possible, right? So authority is huge. Now we move on to our 4th lever that we can pull. And this one is leadership. L is for leadership. Now, is your team empowered to lead without you? Right? So many of us, our businesses are so dependent on us being involved in every single little decision. We'll never get anywhere if that's the case, right? You got to learn to let go, right? You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You've got to take on one of your main jobs, which is to build leaders, right? You, as the CEO of the company, are responsible for developing your team into leaders, so that they know what to do. They've got this, right? And they don't need to come to you for that. Oh, I want to make a $100 purchase. I want to upgrade these pads we're using on our whatever, they got to get approval for that, right? So again, we want to make sure that we're building a team of leaders. How? We need to make sure, number one, we have a clear, established, and communicated vision. Where are we going? Why are we going there? Right? When do we expect to go there? How are we going to know when we're there? Right? So the vision is mission critical, right? We also need to make sure that there are what I call delegation depth charts. So, if so-and-so can't get it done, who's backing them up? And then who backs them up, right? All of this needs to be laid out so your team could play it out without you having to be involved every single time something doesn't go exactly as planned, right? And understand too, leaders aren't born, right? They're built. You've probably heard that phrase before. It's very, very true. We're not born, we're built, right? Remember that. So you need to train up your team. You need to build them, right? And if they're not buildable, you've got the wrong person on your team in that role. And you really got to check in with yourself. Do you have the right players on the bus? If you don't, time to trade them up, folks, right? I got into that argument with an old coach of mine a long time ago when she told me to trade up my team, and I kicked and screamed and fought, and I love them, I can't do it. And she's like, well, then why are you paying me? I'm where you say you want to be, but yet I'm telling you what you need to do and you won't do it. So either we work through this or we're done. What are we going to do here? So painful, but yes. Now, you're not the Lone Ranger, or the Lone Ranger, rather. You need to start behaving like a coach. I'm a coach. You need to become a coach. Coach your team. Coach your clients. Coach your vendors. Coach everybody who has anything, any stakeholder in your business. Your job is to coach them, right? That builds leaders. Now, last but not least, I'm going to go into my fifth lever that we pull often with companies, and that's execution. E for execution. That's excellence in execution. Right now, most of us, we go through the motions. We're doing a good enough job. Good enough is good enough for most people, right? Are the right things getting done? Maybe. Are they getting done the same way consistently every time? Probably not, right? And are they getting done strategically? Most likely not for most businesses, especially those that are in low seven figures and down, right? This is where we see a lot of that breakdown, right? So many times we're throwing teams out into the field and we think we have a process. It's that SOP manual on the shelf over there collecting dust. And then we're sending teams out in the field with a little bit of training and think that they just know how to handle everything. And because we don't hear anything, we think everything's good, right? So we use a process in my coaching business we call the 90-day sprint. And it has everything to do with how we execute and how we lead, right? And I would advise everybody to think through what's your machine or what's your mechanism, what's your system for how you're going to make sure you're doing these things, right? And again, make sure you're putting on your coaching hat. Now, as well with execution, come back to that process that I mentioned earlier about eliminate, automate, delegate, right? So you as the CEO, look at everything coming down your pipeline and make sure that you're getting things off your plate, anything that's possible, right? You want the best people doing the best work. So you want to put people in there where their genius is, right? You may not love doing this one thing, but I bet you there's someone out there in the world who does love that. That's why we hire bookkeepers for most of us. Most of us hate doing the numbers like that. But you know what? Bookkeepers love it and they're better at it. So let them do it. So how we execute, whether it's how we're doing a cleaning job or how we execute things in our office, whatever that is, it's excellence in execution. That can only happen with systems though, right? Otherwise we get haphazard actions and results. So bottom line is these 5 levers all lend to reducing the chaos in a business. And when you reduce chaos, you improve and increase the opportunity and the chances to scale so that we can pop the business in a positive way. Now we run I want you to think of these 5 levers as going around a wheel, right? And I want you all to rank yourselves, 1 to 5. 1, you completely suck at that lever. And 5, you got it going on. You're the best at that, right? And I want you, so for the S, grade yourself a 1 through a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, you're just okay at it. You got it. You're all right, right? But not great, right? And what you're going to see is you're going to start giving each a number. Maybe systems, you got a 5. Maybe for clients, you got a 2. Maybe for, authority, you've got let's give it a 1. Maybe, and so on and so forth. And what you're going to see is lopsided, right? So if you truly want to scale, you've got to get all those numbers up so that wheel can roll smoothly, not like this. And then you know what I'm going with that, Jeff? It's like a lopsided wheel or a flat tire. You're not going to get very far. If you want to scale, you want to ramp all of those numbers up to a beautiful 5. And when you get all those numbers up to a 5, you're going to start scaling. And then you know what? You're going to hit another plateau at some point. And what you used to be 5s for you, maybe now become 3s, because now you're at the 7-figure, 8-figure mark, right? And it's time to beef those up again. This is the way the game is played, folks, right? So stop being the bottleneck. Figure out where you sit with, on this scale wheel that we have here. And I would say get to work. But it's good work, because you know what? If you own the business, it's all for you. Everything you build, right? You're building something for yourself, for your family, for your team, right? Something that's worth sticking around for. And by the way, you'll also, which I know is the biggest pain point for most companies out there in the cleaning and restoration space, is finding talent. You want to find good talent? Maximize these, especially the authority one, because you start attracting the best people to you. And that's not just clients, that's also team, right? So what do you think, Jeff?
As the modern workplace evolves, organizations must evolve as well. They need a partner that understands this new world of work. We are that partner. We are ODP Business Solutions, formerly Office Depot Business Solutions Division. More than just office supplies, ODP is a force for change, helping address technology transformation, sustainability, innovative workspace design, cleaning, break room, and more, making organizations everywhere say, oh, when they see how much more we can do. ODP Business Solutions.
I think what's on my mind right now is when I lived where it was colder and we'd get a flat tire in the winter and you go out and you try to drive it with not all the way flat, but kind of flat. It goes
Right.
thump, kerthump.
Yes.
Very unproductive. So when you said that, I was
Yes.
thinking about those days. But, that's not the most important part of your discussion. One thing I did like was where you said you don't rise to your goals, but you fall to your
Yeah, your systems.
systems. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's true. That's a
it is.
good, that's powerful.
It is. It's definitely a game changer when
Mhm.
somebody takes it on. They really do get it and they take it on and they're willing to go after it because of that. It's a different mindset. And one thing I got clear on with this past week, delivering that workshop, mindset is the biggest issue that I see most businesses, especially in the cleaning and restoration space, have,
Mhm.
right? Their financial thermostats are not where they need to be.
No, it's a
You
good way of
know?
looking at it.
Yeah.
And adjusting when you can.
Yeah.
No, I have just one final question. We're about out of time, but
Sure.
thinking about business owners watching this right now, they might feel they've hit a wall. They say it's easy to scale to a certain point and then you kind of plateau and then you wonder, how do I go higher? But if you were to share maybe the first step they should take to shift from stalling out to scaling, what would that be? What would be that first step in Dean's opinion?
Yeah. I mean,
First step, not don't give me 5 more.
yeah. First step would always be vision.
Vision.
You
Okay.
got to know what you want and why you want it. Why is it important for you to scale?
Hmm.
Because what I find with most companies, they do a lot of this, but there's
Yes.
none of this behind it. They don't really understand. There's no passion behind why they're saying what they think everybody wants to hear, as opposed to, is it really that important for them? So to me, a vision is a purpose statement. That's your why. It's also your mission statement, which is your what by when, right? And then it's also your core values. So your vision is all three of those things. But when you reconnect with that why, and you really get passionate about it, and your team is behind you on that why, it gets a lot easier, because we're not fighting it. We're not fighting against the grain. This one's going that way, and this guy's going that way, and she's going over here. And no, we all got to get on we pedal the same direction, because we can see clearly where we're going, and we know why we're going there.
Your true north.
Yeah, exactly. And when you get that, then I start saying, okay, now let's look to systematize. Right? But it starts with knowing what you want and why it's important.
That might seem simple, but it's maybe one of the most challenging things to figure out.
And I would say to every one of you, if you don't have that 100% nailed down, get with your coach. You don't have a coach, get a coach and work through that, because I'm telling you, it is the roadblock stopping most of you out there is to get clear on that. Once you're clear, then you can really start propelling forward, right? Otherwise, it's like you said, Jeff, it's that wheel that's flattened and it's kind of and it's a great
that's the sound. That's it.
Think
right
about
there.
it. Yeah.
You do know cold weather.
Yes, I come from New York, so I'm no stranger to chains on the tires once in a while.
Oh, it's been a while. I remember those days. Yeah,
remember that?
Oh,
we're dating ourselves. It's terrible
driving in that weather. Well, Dean, thank you for this. What's the word?
Pleasure.
Scale.
Yep.
Scale. All right.
Scale
and vision. Don't forget your vision.
That's right.
All right.
Go get them, folks.